ago in the year 2018, the anime streaming service Crunchyroll announced they were making their own original anime. Literally seconds after the announcement, the otaku community erupted into chaos. That's because nobody wants American-made anime. It was indeed a dark day for many a weeb.
The project was called High Guardian Spice, and its primary selling point was an all-female team. One could say that this is probably the worst selling point to focus on, but that's what they chose to do. Now, before you cancel me, I'm not saying that all-female teams are incapable. I'm just saying you probably shouldn't have that as your primary selling point, especially when this is one of your writers. Now, I believe in separating art from the artist, and I do also think that Kate Leth is onto something, though her solution only solves a fraction of the problem. For you see, I believe we should just kill everyone, because humans can't have problems if humans no longer exist. But I'm not here to argue half-baked philosophy and identity politics. I'm here to talk about this cartoon. So without further ado, let's get into it. Episode 1 starts out with a trigger warning. Lovely. Okay, episode 1 actually starts off by introducing us to two of the main characters. First up is Rosemary. She's the girl with pink hair. She's loud and annoying. And we're already starting with my least favorite type of protagonist. Next up you have Sage, who's the girl with blue hair. She uses old magic. What is old magic? That's something we'll get into later. Kind of. Right off the bat, I'm going to say I'm not a fan of the art direction and character design of anything in this cartoon. Then again, I'm not really a big fan of a lot of the art direction in post-2010s anime, so... The girls are headed to High Guardian Academy. It's a highly esteemed military academy, I think. We see a little interaction between the girls and their family, but it's not much. These characters probably won't matter anyway. This beginning is just to introduce that Rosemary's mother is missing, and I guarantee you this will be a main plot device later in the series. The two girls leave their parents and get on a passenger cart carried by two emu-looking things. The two eventually arrive at a bus-like carriage where Rosemary makes an idiot of herself.
No seats for you girls?
We don't need seats. We're future guardians.
Most guardians can afford seats.
We're guardians in training. We're gonna sit on each other's laps at the same time.
Listen, I don't care.
After the carriage ride, the two go on an elevator thing, I think. After they get off the elevator thing, they get at a train station, because Harry Potter. Rosemary decides she wants to skip the line, but Sage says they shouldn't do that. Then an orc breaks through the floor. I guess that was the only way onto the train, so Sage changes her mind. Sage pulls out a broom from her living treasure chest and proceeds to fly it onto the train. We are then treated to a montage of them on the train.
Gay!
After they get to generic fantasy city, they are greeted by Sage's cousin Alice and her elf waifu Aloe. They go to Alice's house, where we are introduced to some of the inner workings of the magic system. There are two types of magic, new magic and old magic, and apparently they do not mix together. That said, two people can merge powers together, meaning a person that practices new magic and a person that practices old magic can do something where they're able to utilize both. They don't outright say how this merging works, but I'm assuming it's something lame like friendship or romance. Because friendship and love isn't already a tired trope. I also don't know what the difference between new magic and old magic is. After the girls go to bed, we are treated to a dream sequence where Rosemary sees bad stuff happen to her mother. Rosemary's mother just never came back after going on a mission from the academy. maybe sending people off to go die is just not a good idea. After the dream, Annis seemingly breaks the previously established magic rules by opening the portal on her own. That doesn't matter because Aloe made breakfast for the girls, or rather just Rosemary, because she's impatient and doesn't allow Sage to eat food. What a wonderful friend. Why did Rosemary rob Sage of a balanced breakfast? Because she wanted to explore the city, which in reality wasn't something that was time sensitive or pertinent to do. You can clearly tell that I'm not a fan of Rosemary's archetype. She has about as much personality as Rex from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Just enough to annoy you, and nothing else. At least Rex has, like, boob swords.
Rule 5 of the Salvager Code. Get laid without a condom.
After leaving, Rosemary mentions to Sage that her cousins are the best. And that leaves me with many questions. This is honestly just a phrasing thing, but I would have just said, your family is awesome, not your cousins. Maybe it's because I'm from Wisconsin and I unfortunately know some inbred folks out here, but that's besides the point, I suppose. So Sage and Rosemary go into town. For some reason, Rosemary brings her mother's sword and proceeds to swing it around like a moron. While swinging her sword around like a genius, Rosemary almost cuts off the face of an elf walking by. Let me just say that there were reasons sheathing laws existed in medieval times. This elf happens to be one of the main characters, Time. Time is a no-nonsense elf, and that's about the only character growth we'll get this whole episode. Right after the confrontation that lasts like 8 seconds, Rosemary realizes she's missing her locket. It's special because it has cheesecake in it. They find some little furry bastard has stolen her locket, so they chase it throughout the city. They track down the squirrely bastard to a garden. For a moment, I thought we were going to play a game of XCOM.
Hello, Commander.
They then happen upon the rodent that's doing some sort of mating ritual. The two watch the ritual, and eventually one of the other Trixies, I guess that's what they're called, joins in the dance, and they fly high into the sky, and then proceed to tear apart Rosemary's locket. It seemed that locket had what I'm assuming is the last picture of Rosemary's family together. It's important to note that she feels ashamed by this for some reason, mainly because I can't figure out why. So Rosemary's feeling dejected after losing something of importance, so Sage takes Rosemary to a blacksmith. It's here where we meet our fourth and final character, Parsley.
What was that?
What was what?
She's a blacksmith that looks like a female version of Link. Her voice acting is probably the most annoying of all the main characters. The girls leave the locket with Parsley, who will bring it to school tomorrow. On the way out, they bump into Time again, quite literally. She's still standoffish, which is understandable since she almost got her face cut in by a retard. Later that night, Rosemary and Sage tell Annis and Aloe Vera about their day. They talk about love and how the Trixie found his soulmate. The episode ends with Rosemary and Sage walking into school, with a perhaps cryptic line of Sage telling Rosemary that if she explodes, Sage would put her back together.
I'm going to explode.
You're not going to explode.
Now, what would you do if I did?
I'd put you back together.
You say that so confidently.
I hope Rosemary explodes. So what are my feelings after episode 1? Well, it's pretty generic. I hate the art style. Straight up hate the art style. It's like they took, Moe and then mixed CalArts in there, and they melded it together into this abomination. So not a big fan of the art style. Overall, it's pretty mediocre. Also, what the hell was with that trigger warning at the beginning? This series does not need a trigger warning from what I've seen in this first episode, unless it's gonna pull some Third Impact stuff.
Thanks for watching my video. My stupid ass screwed up the outro, and I'm way too lazy to fix it. Like the video if you want to see more anime and video game reviews, I guess.